Welcome to Troubadour Reactions. I'm going to be reacting to Bob Dylan's Every Grain of Sand. Now, I have never heard this song. This is a new song to me, and I've been trepidatious about reacting to songs because often people want me to have certain kinds of reactions, and I'm trying to have the most genuine reaction that I can. Now, I'm choosing a lyricist because my background is literature, poetry, particularly classics, and I love lyrical poetry of the past. I've never been able to really connect with poetry or the lyrical songs today, not in the same way that I do with the lyrical poems of the past. Partly that's because I'm having a purely emotional reaction to this music, and the lyrics take a back seat. Even when I've looked at them outside of the music, there's nothing really there, but people have told me that the best lyricist today or the best lyricist of our era is Bob Dylan. Now, if you disagree with that, who do you think it is? Send me that person, tell me, and I'll react to some of their stuff. So I'm going to react to the music, but I'm also going to be doing some kind of discussion afterwards if there's anything there to discuss, unless it's really, blank. And not in the blank Versian sense, but in just blank, that it's nothing hits with me, which is a personal thing. So don't get mad at me if that happens. I don't know. We'll see. Let's stick around. Let's do this. Let's get into the reaction itself. Okay. I'm going to full screen this, and here we go. Sure. Okay. I'll try not to pause, but for copyright, sometimes you have to. And I chose this video on YouTube because it has the lyrics on it. So I know this is like some person made.
In the time of my confession, in the hour of my deepest need, when the pool of tears beneath my feet flood every newborn seed.
Strong start. Wow.
There's a dying voice within me, reaching out somewhere, toiling in the danger and in the morals of despair.
Morals.
Don't have the inclination to look back on any mistake.
Yes.
Like Cain, I now behold this chain of events that I must break.
Now behold.
In the fury of the moment, I can see the master's hand. In every leaf that trembles, in every grain of sand.
Very religious.
Oh, the flowers of indulgence and the weeds of yesteryear.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Like criminals, they have choked the breath of conscience in good
Sometimes
cheer.
there's truth to that.
The sun beat down upon the steps of time to light the way, to ease the pain of idleness and the memory of decay. I gaze into the doorway of temptation's angry flame, and every time I pass that way, I always hear my name.
Oh, my name. Oh,
then onward in my journey,
I'll think about that.
I come to
It's about him.
understand
It's his confession.
that every hair is numbered, like every grain of sand.
I do want to learn harmonica. I feel like it's an instrument I could actually learn as a musically challenged person. Yeah, I'm liking this a lot. Wow. But like if I couldn't play this good though, what's the point? Like even if I learned.
I have gone from rags to riches and the sorrow of the night and the violence of a summer street and the chill of a wintry light and the bitter dance of loneliness fading into space in the broken mirror of innocence on each forgotten face. I hear the aging footsteps like the motion of the sea. Sometimes I turn, there's someone there, other times it's only me. I am hanging in the balance of the reality of man.
Reality.
Like every sparrow falling, like every grain of sand.
Nice. Okay. I definitely really enjoyed that. One thing, so a lot of things came to mind and I want to discuss some of them. But one of the things that I noticed is that here the lyrics really are worthy of at least some level of contemplation outside of the music. And I feel like the music is really an accompaniment in this song, whereas most of the music I hear, the music takes the front seat. Now, by the way, that's the way it's great that's how it is. That's at least on some level, that's fine. I mean, that's the purpose of music. We go to music for that. We go to books for books and words. Like I get that, but I'm often told like that a lot of people like lyrics to songs. But when I listen to the lyrics, it's really not about the lyrics. They're not that interesting. I mean, sometimes there's something okay in them, I guess, but they, for me, a lyric has to be able to stand on its own, in its own sound and rhythm and the meaning of the words, the metaphors, the way that you integrate these thoughts to create a grander thought and a story and an imaginative narrative and the ideas that you're trying to convey. That's the purpose of this kind of lyrical poetry, to convey something that's not just a pure emotion. That's what music is the best at of all the art forms, is just purely gripping into your emotions and then snapping you into it. Literature, poetry, words do not do that. They, no matter what, I mean, you're doing some level of processing and then you are having a reaction to it. You, even to some degree on a movie, but this is why soundtrack is so important for movies. I mean, just watch movies. They do this on YouTube sometimes, like watch movies without a soundtrack. It's a whole nother thing. And that's important. Music digs into your emotions immediately, which is why so many people love it. And that's great. I love music too. But literature and words do something very different, and they're important in a very different way. I would say it's more important in a very different way. And you can see a lot of my other work to go into that. But I really like this a lot for a variety of reasons. You saw me look down once or twice. I was listening very intently, but a poet came to mind immediately to me. And I'm sure this, I haven't looked this up, so I don't know. I'm sure this is commonly discussed, but Bob Dylan is Blakean. He's romantic in his connection to the English Romantic poets, William Blake, Wordsworth, Coleridge, Keats, Byron, Shelley. Those are the big six romantics of the 18th and 19th century. And Dylan is clearly in that realm. And he's particularly here Blakean. Here's from Auguries of Innocence by William Blake. This is, I don't know the exact date of this, but William Blake is like 1750 something to 1830s, 40s, 1830s, I think. To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. And that's the famous opening to this. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. But to see a world in a grain of sand, to see a world in a grain, what does that mean? And that's kind of what I'm hearing here, on a little bit different, of course. And we'll get into Bob Dylan's stuff too, but I just want you to kind of contextualize it in that way. To see, I mean, grain of sand has time thoughts to us because we have the hourglass, which is like the grain, like that is ingrained in all of us on some level, even if you're not a literary person. There's something about sand, the footsteps through the sand of time. You know, what is that? That's Longfellow, Wadsworth Longfellow. Like I through the sands of time, perhaps by the footsteps of another, we'll see. And there's something about seeing the footsteps in the sand of time, and then another will see that and be inspired by your footsteps. So you should, so there's something in the imprinting of that image into our minds, although there's a temporariness to it, because again, it's got the element of sand as, sifting through your fingers, sifting through the hourglass of time. So you see all of that here. So let's go through the lyrics. I actually wasn't going to do this, but I thought, why not? If you want to stick around, let's read through and just think about the lyrics a little bit. In the time of my confession, in the hour of my deepest need, this is Dylan, of course, when the pool of tears beneath my feet flood every newborn seed. So that's interesting. So flood. So again, you have the title of the song is Every Grain of Sand. You have a flood image of every newborn seed. Is that the seed of his desires? Probably. He had a desire, vision, and imaginative hope for the future. But now he's confessing. In the time of my confession, the hour of my deepest need, he's in a crisis state. There's a dying voice within me reaching out somewhere, toiling in the danger and in the morals of despair. Wow, that's sad. So he's toiling in the danger and in the morals of despair. So he's trying to work something out. That's what I'm getting from this. Don't have the inclination to look back on any mistake, like Cain killed his brother Abel. I now behold this chain of... So he's talking about killing thy brother. We've got biblical images here. I now behold the chain of events that I must break. In the fury of the moment, I can see the master's hand in every leaf that trembles and in every grain of sand. In every leaf that trembles. So he's seeing all around. This is very transcendentalism. This is very romantic poetry. The transcendentalists did get a lot from Wordsworth, Coleridge, Blake, and these guys. They were, at least Wordsworth and Coleridge in particular, were well known to them and inspirations. I believe Ralph Waldo, I believe it was Emerson, not Thoreau, who went to England and had, I think, what he called a disappointing experience with Wordsworth. Wordsworth, one of my favorite poets. And you see a lot of Wordsworth and the Romantics in Dylan here because a big transition they did in the psyche of all of us humans in the West. And you don't realize this, but you are a romantic because of them. The profundity of literature is that they really shifted our consciousness in relationship to nature, that we have this sense now that our consciousness has to be connected and almost siphoned through an understanding of nature. And it's through nature. And there's some, truth to that. There's some interesting insights that come with that, but there's a, big part of what they're talking about is I see it here in this sense of when you're going through something, right? You walk on the beach, you go, like there's something about that you have. And, I think you get that a little bit in literature before. I'm not saying it came out of nowhere, but it wasn't a focal point the way that it was with the Romantics. So let's go on with the Bob Dylan thing. So, he's seeing in that last stanza, he's seeing this biblical connection. He's seeing something about, he wants to break in the fury. I now behold this chain of events that I must break. In the fury of the moment, I can see the master's hand. So Cain and Abel, fury of the moment, that's Cain killing Abel, and every leaf that trembles. So he did something bad. This is a confession poem or poem. I call it a poem because it feels like that. Oh, the Flowers of Indulgence. I like that. Flowers of Indulgence. Again, this is William Blake for sure. Yeah, it's Blake. Blakean, Garden of Love. I went to the Garden of Love and found what I never had seen. A chapel was built in the midst where I used to play in the green. And on the gates of the chapel were writ, thou shalt not. Or no. And the gates of the chapel were shut. And on the front was writ, thou shalt not. Writ on the front of the gate. So I went to the Garden of Love, which so many sweet flowers bore. And I saw what I never had seen, and it was filled with graves. So I'm trying to do this off my memory. And I saw that it was filled with graves and tombstones where flowers should be, and priests in black gowns were making their rounds and binding with briars my toil, my joys and desires. So Blake is all about oppression and repression. He's against oppression and repression. He wants you to bring out that inner desire, the self. Here I'm seeing a poem, a story, a lyric about the death of a seed, the newborn seeds that were killed, that his desires were killed. Well, it seems like it's because of his own actions. This is Dylan. The sun beat down upon the steps of time to light the way, to ease the pain of idleness and the memory of decay. The sun beat down upon the steps of time. So you have that another steps of time, grains of sand to light. So he's showing the way to ease his pain of his memory. Okay. That's not resonating that much with me. I get what he's saying. Maybe I have to think about it a little bit more, but it's not hitting hard. But I gaze into the doorway of temptation's angry flame. And every time I pass that way, I always hear my name. So, okay, this is about temptation, obviously. Yeah, so he's tempted maybe with the way he wanted things to be, or a past love or a lover, something like that. Then onward in my journey, I come to understand that every hair is numbered like every grain of sand. So I like that. That's a good metaphor. Every hair is numbered. As someone who has no hair, like one of the things I used to tell people is like, you don't get with a hairy headed baby, get yourself a baldy baby, because we actually have, like, we're stronger people by nature because we've already confronted our own mortality. You get these beautiful hairy headed men who are, have this glowing flocks of hair, or locks of hair, or whatever, and they can't handle upset. They can't handle difficulty in life. The first time, I'm telling you ladies, the first time anything bad happens to that dude, he's going to collapse like a lump. I've already done it. I did it when I was young. I've been through the most pain of realizing I'm going to die. Like everything's going to fall apart. I've done it. That's wisdom, baby. So you want to get yourself a baldy, baby. That's what you want. And that's what I'm what I'm seeing with the image he's trying to, well, he's not saying that obviously, but the idea of, where was I? Where's that every hair is numbered like every grain of sand. That's the realization of mortality, that every hair is numbered. There's a number to it. It's going to fall out and die. Like every grain of sand is, even grains of sand are eventually going to fall out and die. They're going to perish, just like they come from rocks and they perish into sand, right? That's eventually going to turn into something else and disappear forever. So everything is going to go away. That's a realization that the bald dudes know, especially if they didn't have a choice in their baldness. So those are the better ones, not the ones who choose it. That's weird. Why would you do that if you have beautiful hair? Come on. I have gone from rags to riches in the sorrow of the night, in the violence of a summer's dream, in the chill of a wintry light. in the bitter dance of loneliness. Now that one struck as someone who's, newly single again, the bitter dance of loneliness. I mean, you dance with the partner. So a bitter dance of loneliness is like you're doing this kind of same semblance of an act that you do with someone else, but now you're doing it alone. That's the feeling of being like newly single. So maybe this is like a confession if he ruined some kind of old love. Fading into space in the broken mirror of innocence on each forgotten face. The forgotten face one, on each forgotten face really makes me think of another Blake poem, which is in London. I wandered through each chartered street near where the chartered Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet marks of weakness, marks of woe. But it's that idea of seeing in something else, and then that's from Songs of Innocence and Experience by William Blake. And here we get in the broken mirror of innocence on each forgotten face. So forgotten face, it seems like ex-girlfriends, maybe that, or boyfriends, whatever, exes that you had, and the broken mirror of innocence, that there's some kind of destruction. And I like that imagery, broken mirror of innocence. I hear the ancient footsteps like the motion of the sea. Ancient footsteps like the motion of the sea. Not sure what he's going for. So, I mean, I guess just another connection between the ancientness of this feeling and, the ocean and sea, things like that. I think, again, Blake, basically this is the unofficial national anthem of England. And did those feet in ancient time walk upon England's mountains green, and was the holy Lamb of God on England's pleasant pastures seen. And he, goes on to talking about building Jerusalem, but that's about having a vision for the future, having a vision for a world that's connected to an ancient vision, which is the story that Jesus actually went to London at one point in England. And there was a myth about that. So it's an interesting, I hear that the ancient footsteps like the motion of the sea. Sometimes I turn, there's someone there. Okay, so I turn. This makes me think of Wordsworth's Surprised by Joy, like the experiencing of something that you had with somebody else. So you hear something, you see something, you know something, and you turn, but it's just me. I'm alone again. So this is a poem about being alone. In the hour of deepest need, when the pools of tear beneath my feet let every newborn see, there's a dying voice within me reaching out somewhere, toiling. Yeah. Don't have the inclination to look back on any mistake like Cain. Cain killed his brother, but you could also say, just the killing of something. And there's a chain of events that I must break in the fear of the moment I can see the master's hand. Yeah, I am hanging in the balance of a perfect finished plan. I like that. See, this makes me think it's a little bit broader than just an ex and like lost love. Like there's a loss in general, like the loss of innocence, like every sparrow falling, like every grain of sand. Like there's a desolation, a loneliness to this, but it's, part of something a little bit bigger, not just an ex. That's what I mean. But okay. So I like that poem. I like Bob Dylan. Well, I like this Bob Dylan song. I'm definitely going to do more Bob Dylan. So for the person who recommended Bob Dylan to me, great choice. I'm going to do more of it. And I think if you guys like the lyrical discussion, I know it went a little longer than I wanted it to, but I really want these to be first reactions as much as possible. So that means I'm not necessarily thinking through it as much ahead of time. If you disagree with some of my analysis, what do you think it's about? Tell me. I'll, revise my thoughts on it. Okay. I'll see you next time.